I'm Bob again, and I'm here to launch a crowdfunded video series on the Southwest Light Rail project and on transit more generally. I'm at the intersection of Kenilworth Trail and Cedar Lake Parkway, where I've been for almost a year now, off and on, 2 mornings a week, sometimes one, sometimes more, with some signs advocating that we either stop or reroute Southwest Light Rail. I've got what I think is at least one good alternative route for light rail, but we also have bus-based alternatives, and we'll be taking a look at that also. Here's a quick visual tour looking around at this one-person Occupy site. This is the main stop or reroute sign I've been setting up when I'm here. It's a little worse for wear. By the way, this documentary series is called This Is ... Later there will be a viewer participation feature to complete the name with a word or phrase. Near the start of the 2015 legislative session, I registered as a lobbyist representing We the People, an informal association. My 2015 state legislative focus was on plans for better transit and especially bus-based light rail alternatives.
Would anyone else like to testify on this? Mr. Carney.
I was at all but a few of the House Transportation Committee and conference meetings.
A couple points on this. The first and the biggest one is...
At this one, I was working to stop a scheme that could have made hundreds of millions of public-private partnership money available to the Met Council. The plan needs more study. I'm sure you've heard the Southwest Light Rail budget blew up, again, in late April 2015. Increasing to about $2 billion. That's up
$341 million.
Dollars?
Yes.
I think this is unacceptable.
It could potentially kill the project, absolutely, yeah.
Senate Transportation Chair Scott Dibble says everyone will have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what can be done.
There are other alternatives to light rail.
And now those alternatives will be considered.
When I say all options are on the table, I mean all options do need to be on the table.
Alan Costantini, KARE 11 News.
I think we need to say we're not prepared just to keep putting more money and more money and more money every time the costs go up.
In reality, we've been throwing money into this pot for decades. Here's a 2003 plan for Southwest Light Rail. We'll isolate the graphic. This map shows the 2003 overlay on an earlier Eden Prairie route almost everyone has forgotten about. The cost was below $900 million. I'll dissolve the overlay to let you compare the earlier route with something very close to the current Eden Prairie alignment. Here's a Google aerial view of the 2003 route at the Hopkins end. You can see it's still labeled Minnesota River Bluffs LRT Regional Trail. As the boxed area shows on our earlier graphic, the 2003 plan follows that old railroad line from Hopkins all the way to the end. That's why it would have been relatively inexpensive. Would have been. This graphic shows the current alignment, but again with the 2003 overlay. I'll dissolve the overlay to focus now on the much more expensive Golden Triangle route through Eden Prairie, which includes wetlands. Here's a November 2010 Finance and Commerce headline. When the Eden Prairie Railroad alignment was dumped for the solid gold Golden Triangle route, the cost ballooned to a then shocking $1.25 billion. Unfortunately, we're still finding out about underestimates and problems with the Golden Triangle route and the current plan.
Randy, how did this happen?
I was out surveying the proposed rail route and ran into some unexpected trouble. Hey, there's not supposed to be wetland here. And that's just the beginning. The soils are too soft, the intersections need better safety equipment, the tunnels need ventilation, we need to buy more trains and more property than we thought, and it's going to take longer to build, and that's going to cost more too.
What else could go wrong?
Are you the Metropolitan Council? You're being sued.
It's not like some of us didn't see this coming. Here's my interview with Minneapolis City Council Transportation Committee Chair Kevin Reich after the committee recommended municipal consent in August 2014.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Here's the question. I just heard Councilmember Yang ask for a legal opinion regarding whether this is legal, whether a draft environmental impact statement is required or not. And as I heard the city attorney, she was not willing to offer a legal opinion, but instead, she said that this may go to court. I am frankly stunned by this, by the idea that the council would move forward on this and potentially allow significant millions of dollars of public money to be spent, and to offer an invitation to the citizens of Minneapolis, so sue us. Can you think of an example prior to this where the city council has acted on something with an explicit request for a legal opinion as to whether it was legal, and without a legal opinion stating that it is legal?
I think the council to date has been that we can move forward in this parallel track with the EIS being developed and our approvals being before us, and this is just one component of the approvals. I think her comment in terms of wasn't so much as asking for it to be sued, the notion that there is, this is America, right? Anyone can sue for anything practically. And so if there is a question that some want to litigate, that question would be answered finally in the courts. It's the American legal system.
But don't you think the unwillingness of the city attorney to even say, yes, we think this is legal, is a red flag?
I think she just said we are proceeding properly.
Well, that may be procedurally properly, but again, there is no legal opinion. But we've covered this issue.
When co-location was hoisted on the city of Minneapolis, as it was pointed out, was not part of the original plan, and one of the 3 areas that needed to be examined in a supplemental EIS.
In late May, the supplemental draft environmental impact statement was rolled out, of course without considering anything about the most recent budget blow-up. These clips from the Minneapolis public hearing on that already obsolete STEIS show many believe it fails to address crucial issues.
So the dangers of transporting oil and ethanol are real, and unfortunately were not addressed in any meaningful way in the supplemental DEIS.
Any chemical can be hauled on this route. It's required by federal law. They may not want to haul it, but they have to. Even chlorine. And chlorine, of course, was used as a poisonous gas in World War I and more recently in Iraq.
As I was walking in, I was fortunate to find these earmuffs. And they say Met Council, and I thought, great, you'll be able to hear us. Then my teenage son reminded me and said, Dad, just because they can hear you doesn't mean they're listening. Even if cost surprises and lawsuits don't torpedo Southwest LRT, a fundamental flaw should. Hennepin County's failure to include freight rail in the project's scoping process. Contrary to law, Met Council has limited the choice of reasonable alternatives and alignments. There are 2 remedies. 1, move freight rail out of the corridor, then build your plan that's been studied. Or 2, reopen the scoping process and include freight transport in there, and then maybe there'll be another alternative. Thank you.
I think that the tunnel, with its 55-foot deep solid steel walls along about 2,800 feet, is going to really mess up the lakes. And I think we're talking about losing the chain. So what is this really about? It's about development. And with development, we have a choice. Uptown or Hidden Beach? I mean, come on, folks. Uptown is a venue. It's famous, it's alive, people want to go there, and you want them to go 2 miles away to Hidden Beach?
Why are we spending $1.685 billion of our money for a project that doesn't make sense anymore? I never thought it made sense in the first place, why it wasn't going through Uptown, but it does not make sense now.
Mayor Hodges, I work for Mayor Hodges, and she would like to extend her thanks to everybody here, the citizens present, for their remarkable politeness and thoughtful comments in the face of this project's transformation from what it was promised to be into a totally different project that it is today. I will share this experience with Mayor Hodges as a refreshing tonic compared to the collective amnesia which permeates the conversation that takes place at the Corridor Management Committee. At those meetings, there's no recognition that this project was planned to be and promised to be totally different than it is today with freight relocated from the corridor. This is beyond dispute. And Ms. Colby and Mr. Kuzak are absolutely right about the origin, the root cause of all these challenges. Southwest LRT has been a project devoid of accountability. Why did the federal government have to force the project to incorporate freight issue into the project scope and budget. If neither of the government agencies responsible for this situation are willing to tell the community, let the city of Minneapolis do it, you are right to be angry and frustrated. You are right. Your politeness in the face of this is entirely amazing. This is the opposite of what you were told this project was going to be. So if no one else can say it, I'm sorry.
This is Bob again, and I'm talking with Representative Tim Kelly, who's the chair of the House Transportation Committee. My biggest and most successful lobbying project this year was promoting a bipartisan deal to cancel $30 million of the total of $45 million in state money that had been appropriated for Southwest Light Rail, making that $30 million available instead for Metro Transit's operating uses. Governor Dayton signed the bill. There's about $30 million that was going to go to Southwest Light Rail Capital, and that now has been eliminated from that program. It's available as unrestricted spending for Metro Council and Met Transit.
That's right. We have our vigilant people around here at the Capitol that do some fantastic work, like yourself, Bob, and we really appreciate it.
Hi.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Well, pretty good. How are you?
Hanging in there. Did you ride your bike all the way out here?
I've got the bike here. At the Eden Prairie SDEIS hearing, I asked Met Council Chair Adam Dunnick about the legislature's $30 million cut. Here's the exchange. Got time for a quick question?
Sure.
Okay. Now, as you know,
I promise it'll be quick and quicker than some of your remarks are.
Yeah. Well, here goes. So the legislatures, took back $30 million that had been appropriated for Southwest Light Rail. Now there's a total of $15 million they've appropriated, and the plan for $1.65 billion would be $165 million from the legislature. So
it'll be 150.
Well, yeah, I was going to say there'd be $150 million short.
Yep.
Now, I talked to Speaker Dowd at the special session. He said the legislature is not putting any more money in next year. So, with $150 million there and another $150 matching, where are you going to get $300 million to get the $1.65 billion of funding?
Well, the funds are a little bit more complicated than that. There's HICRA's funds, CTIP's funds, and the state share. So the 150 that you talked about is the only amount that's in question. The rest of the whole local share is already accounted for. And it's up to us to make the case that the project warrants the other 150.
Okay, but you do agree that with the 150 missing from the state, that really is $300 million because
no, it's not 300.
No, because it's.
You're talking about the feds matching it. Well, the feds don't match some of the money and not all of it. They match half of the entire non-federal share. So the question is, if the state share doesn't come through, can we find $150 million somewhere else?
Yeah.
And that would be up to us to do that, either through the Met Council or through other local governments that care about this project.
Okay, thank you for the answer. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Incredibly, in the face of a decision by the legislature and the governor to take back 2/3 of what had been the state's appropriation and the House Speaker's determination to provide no more money, on June 8th, the Met Council rolled out a plan to get the state's missing $150 million by selling certificates pledging future tax revenues. Keep in mind, the legislature can cancel that revenue or send it to another entity at any time.
Go ahead. Great, then I'm going to take over and talk about how we plan to move forward with the state funding commitments without a commitment from the state.
Here's what House Transportation Chair Tim Kelly wrote the Met Council after hearing about this new financing plan. The implications of the Council's proposed alternative funding scheme are staggering for taxpayers and state and local policymakers.
On those other items?
Sure. Councilmember Dorfman.
On July 1st, the Met Council's Committee of the Whole considered the latest project plan, spending $1.74 billion. That's about $90 million more than their previous goal to cut back to $1.65 billion. This is above and beyond the $150 million in missing state money. Captain Jack and I were holding up signs throughout the whole meeting, calling for a public hearing before a final vote.
It's good to know.
No public hearing on this?
We'll have a public hearing. We've had lots of public hearings.
Before the vote on this thing, no hearing on it?
All right, have a good fourth. Rivers, close the March traffic.
Okay, so we're gonna hit I did a live shot at 5. I got another one at 6.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so.
Shouldn't we have a public hearing on this?
Side, Bob. Okay.
Which one is that?
The back.
The back. Okay. Here it is, the good side. No public hearing? The role of the mainstream media will be a recurring theme in this series. In Chapter 2, we'll look in detail at the first of 2 pending Southwest LRT lawsuits, including the media's role in creating momentum for a kind of bureaucratic steamroller aimed at the Kenilworth Trail and at crushing environmental concerns and any honest consideration of reasonable alternatives. Meanwhile, we'll wrap up this chapter with a clip of some research I did in 2009 during my first political campaign for mayor of Minneapolis. Is this world real or an illusion? Unfortunately, based on very extensive research from my 2009 campaign for mayor forward, some things never seem to change. For more information about this video series, and at least 2 different ways to contribute, please visit my website, www.bobagain.com.